Okay, we'll get started with today's lecture. Thank you guys for all coming to week 3. Today we'll be talking about what components are and then some other tools. So components, other tools, also grids and guides in Figma, constraints, and then some talk about like the conceptual side of like ideation and wireframing. So as usual, this is the attendance link. Same every week. I'll give a moment for that. And then this is also the link to the lecture file. This is lecture 3, and I'll be doing a demo in the middle. So you can either like make a copy of this file if you want, or kind of like create your own on your own file, but it might be helpful to have these slides up. So there you go. Okay. We'll dive right into components, which are basically like reusable element systems that you can use throughout your designs. So like I said, they're elements, and you can make a component out of anything in your project, whether that be like shapes, icons, images, text, and so on. They're useful for grouping things into categories and maintaining like a consistency of your designs in one project. So some examples on the left are like a lot of buttons or text boxes. These are all components that you kind of like reuse a lot in your design, or like mood, like tabs and stuff like that. Things that are like have the similar like general design, but like small things are changed in between them. So the way that components work is that you have like your main component, which like defines the basic properties. These can be like shape and size or color, or like location of specific like text boxes or things inside that element. And then a way that you like make a component is like you select whatever you want to be one. And then there's like a button that looks like 4 squares. That's like the component symbol. And I know like over the summer, like Figma kind of rebranded and like a lot of their UI looks kind of different. But like if I select a frame, you'll see like in the top right of the right panel, there's like a thing that looks like 4 squares right here. And then that's like the button to create a component, but more on that later. And then so you have your main component, and that houses like the different variants of that component. And then when you make a copy of that into your actual design, those are called instances. So it's like the same exact thing as your main component, but that's the thing that's kind of like pasted into your design, and then your main component is the thing that you change. And then when you change your main component, it basically makes that change to all the instances in your designs. It's like a very confusing concept right now, but like the more you do it, it'll be better understandable. And I think it just like comes with practice and like using it in ways that you'd actually use it. It makes more sense. But I'll try my best to kind of explain it. Like I said, or in your assets panel on the left of your file over here where all your layers are, it says like file and assets. So if you switch over to assets, you'll see all of your components that you've already made. And you can also access like your files components by hitting Shift I, and then it'll pop up like a little window where you can search for your components as well. Yeah. So some different ways you can use them. You can create a main component and then use the instances throughout your design. But if you want to make any changes, anything you make, like I said, to your main component will make that change to all your instances that you've already pasted. So this is helpful if you're like making like say a button or like a progress bar in all of your designs, and you have like a bunch of screens, but then you decide like the brand is rebranding to a different color, or you want to change the typeface, then if you make that change just in your main component, all of the other places where you have those instances in your design will reflect that change. So it saves like a lot of time editing to make like small changes basically. And a lot of examples like icons, stages of a progress bar, or buttons with a set text and style. You can also use this as like a template. So if you, for example, like these are kind of like text cards with like different text for each one, but the same layout and like spacing and font and size and stuff like that. So you can like make a main component and then like just use that to paste in for every time that you want to keep that style, but just change like the words and stuff. So once you make an instance of your main component, you can override the main component's already set text and stuff like that to change it for your one instance, if that makes sense. And this is, yeah, like useful with cards. So like an email card with a subject, sender, preview and icon, or buttons where the text and size will change in the context or text inputs. So here are some more examples of people like using components. They can be used also to like build character making like games and stuff like that, or for UI, different elements that you might use in a lot of like interfaces. But yeah, these are like Catan board game pieces, Figma bingo squares. Yeah, lots of fun ways you can use components too, not just like UI UX. So another like vocabulary word that goes with components is variants. And it's a way of grouping components with similar purposes, but only like very minor differences in the way that they look. So this like is all one main component of a button, but you'll see like they have different states, like a primary, default, or like while you're hovering over it, or if the button's disabled. This is like variants allow you to make different states of your component that may be used in different contexts. So this is basically a main component with a bunch of different variants. And yeah, you can also like, if you paste this main component anywhere, like one of these buttons, you can switch that out for a different variant if you decide like, oh, this is going to be disabled on this page, then you can like quickly do that without having to like edit everything again. But yeah. So yeah, to create a group of variants, you just like, you can either do it like by manually like selecting them or like adding them as you go, or you can rename components using like a slash. So if you do like the overall component name first and then like a slash and then say like the first property that you want to change that variant to, like default or hover or stuff like that, that'll kind of like create the variant for you, if that makes sense. But that can be like kind of nitpicky if like you don't spell something exactly right or the it's like not capitalized. So I would usually like just like add the variants as you make the component. I'll show you later. But yeah, like I said, you can also switch between variants of one component if you've already pasted an instance into your design. So yeah, these can be adjusted like after you've already made them and pasted them into your file. And you can also like add different properties and names and edit them as you go. You can also make like switches with only like on and offs or true and falses, which are like Boolean properties. Um, yeah, and once you've already made like your group of variants, you can find these in your assets panel as we pointed out, and you can just like drag those out onto your screen after you've made it. So some other component properties, this is like a little more advanced way to customize your components, but these are also possible. You can make Boolean properties, like I said, which is like if only one element in your component is like gonna be on or off. So like if you want this button to be like colored or not, you can like quickly toggle like a visibility of something within your component. You can also swap out the text or swap out the actual instances of your component. And yeah, all this to say, it's like there's a lot of capabilities with components and you can do a lot, but I think it's kind of hard to understand without doing it or understanding it first. So starting small is helpful to understand components. Yeah, so kind of like what we touched on, the three properties that you can use components for, having like different text layers that can be customized, having a Boolean property, which is useful if you just want to like toggle one kind of property of your element, and then swapping instances, which is just like changing out the variants for the one that you've already pasted. And yeah. So a very like separate thing from components is variables. And if you are familiar with like what styles are using like color styles or text styles, variables is a similar concept, but it goes a little like deeper, I guess, into its capabilities. And this was like also an like additional feature that Figma added like a couple of years ago. And it's like still also a very complex concept to understand. So don't worry if it's confusing, but yeah. Variables are basically reusable definitions, similar to styles, like I said, but they can be assigned to various design attributes, including color, numbers, and strings. But unlike styles, variables can switch between different definitions depending on like what kind of theme you apply. Yeah, so the four types of variables that you can create are colors, numbers, strings, which is just like text, or Boolean, which is just like an on or off switch. And yeah, these can be applied to layers and objects, anything you want. And to like kind of get a better grasp on components and variants and variables, we will do a demo now. So if you go to like in your left panel, there's different pages. So I'll be in the demo space page. And for this demo, we're going to be creating like a weather card, which like you might see on a weather app on your phone. But yeah, you might want to make a copy of this file so that you can edit it. And you can do that. Oh, let's see. Also like out of curiosity, how many people's Figma like UI looks like this, where like the tools are on the bottom? And does anyone's look like the old way where the tools are on the top? Oh, okay, so we're all in the same boat. Oh, okay, I found it. So in your left panel, if you click like the drop down next to the title of the file, you can duplicate it. Yeah. Oh yeah, so let me go back to the link. You can use like this link right here, and it'll like take you to this file. Did it not work for anyone? Okay. It's also like on our Figma community. It should be posted on there. But if not, I can also send the link on our Slack. Oh, is it just like the presentation? Oh, okay. Let me make a new link then. Okay, give me a moment. Is it easy if I just like send the link in the Slack? Or should I make like a typable link? Oh, I'll just send it here. Okay, sent in the Slack. If that doesn't work, you can let me know and I can do something else. You guys get the message? Okay, does it work? Okay, if you have any trouble, just raise your hand and I can help you out. But yeah, so we're gonna be doing this component demo, making a weather card. And this is kind of like the final product, this frame. So this is like our main component, and that encompasses 3 different variants of our weather card, but we will start from scratch basically. So yeah, you can follow along on your own file, but to make this, I'm gonna start off with a rectangle. So I'm gonna push R and then just like make yay size rectangle. And then I'm just gonna like copy this card. So I'm gonna like eyedropper the color and round out the corners a bit. And then make some text. And then say it's like 56 degrees, but let's make that a little bigger. And then for like the graphics, you can just like copy and paste them from step 3. So I'm gonna put the cloud in here. And then last thing, it says cloudy. And a little smaller. Okay, so I've made my card. It looks pretty much like the sample one. And then to make this a component, first I'm gonna group this together so everything is like collected in one. So now this is like one group. And then I'm going to, while I have this selected, I'm going to hit the create component button on the top right of my like design panel. Or it's like command option K. And then you'll see it like is highlighted in purple. And then there's this little like component symbol next to like the frame. Does that make sense to everyone, or should I do it again? Good. Do it again. Okay, okay, okay. You want me to like start from the beginning, or did everyone make the card, or should I remake the card? No. Okay, well, yeah. It's another page. So on the left, there should be like different pages. It says like lecture slides, demo space, and thumbnail above your layers. And then click on demo space. Does that work? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, if you want to follow along, you might want to duplicate this file so that you can edit it. Since this is like our main file for the decal, we don't want to like have too many changes made. So if you go like by the title of the file on the left, you can like duplicate it. Yeah. Okay. So can you give me like a thumbs up if you were able to make the card without making it a component? Okay. If you want me to redo the card, can you raise your hand? Okay, okay, I can redo it. I'll just keep this one here for reference. But so we started out with like a rectangle. So I pushed R to make the rectangle tool. And then I just like stretched one out, no particular like dimensions, just like kind of what I want it to look like. And then I basically made like the same color as this. So while I had this selected, I pushed I. So it brings up the eyedropper tool, and then I just copy the color from the sample card. And then also I want to also like round out the corners. So you can either like zoom in and then you'll see these dots appear by the corners of your rectangle, and then you can just drag those in. Or you can do it in your design panel. And then we created some text. So I just like made a text box and then typed Berkeley, California. Let me adjust the alignment and the size. And then that's just gonna like be in there. And then we also need the temperature. So I just changed the text and also make it bigger. And then for the like cloud graphic, I just like copy and pasted it from down here. So you can either like Command C, Command V, or you can like hold Option and drag it out. But put that on your card as well. And then lastly, just put like cloudy. And then I changed the alignment to be right. And that like lines up there. And we'll make it a little smaller. Okay. Is everyone good with that part? Okay. And then I grouped everything together. And then while I have that group selected, I push the create component button, which is in the top right of our design panel. It's very, very subtle. I don't know why they made it like this, but they did. Or you can do like Option Command K to create your component, but then now we have it and it has like the little component symbol of our layer and it's like now outlined in purple. So everyone good so far on the components? Okay. Now we will move on to creating different variants of this one component that we've made. So you'll see while we have our component selected, also I'll rename it. So instead of group 4 or group whatever, you can just like double tap on the name of your component and change it to whatever you want. I'm just gonna call it weather card 1. Just so it doesn't get too confusing down the line, and I don't know what this group means. But so while we have it selected, we are going to go into our, you'll see also where like the component button was, it says like add property in the top right, and that's where we're going to add our variant. So you'll get a drop down and then you can select variant. And now our card is like highlighted in this like dashed line. So now it thinks you're going to make multiple variants of your component. And then you'll see this like plus sign pop up on the bottom and I'm going to add one. And then, so basically now we have 2 variants. You'll see if I click them on like the right sidebar or in your layers section, you can see one says like default and one says variant 2. So for the first one, while we have that selected, I'm going to change the name to cloudy. So where it says like property 1 in the top right of your design panel, you can just like double click the text for that property and just like name it whatever you want. In this case, we're going to call it cloudy because that's what our like the differences between our variants are going to be. And then for the second one, so now we want to change what this one looks like into like sunny. So we're going to change like the temperature and the word sunny and the graphic. So all we're going to do is go to our second variant that we made and then just literally like edit that one. So we're just going to change like the numbers and the letters. And then I'm going to grab the sun from over here to paste into here and get rid of the cloud. So now it should look very similar, but now it's sunny instead of cloudy. Also make sure when you add the sun that it's in the same layer as this variant too. So you can make sure that you do that by looking at your layers panel and just making sure that sun is like purple and it's under variant 2. And then after you have everything for variant 2, we're going to change the name just like we did for the first one, but we're going to call it sunny now. So does anyone need me to repeat a step? And give me a thumbs up if you're caught up. Okay, perfect. Good job, guys. Okay, so now we just have to do one more for rainy. And you can try this one on your own. Raise your hand if you have any questions. But yeah, just make it look like the last card. Anyone having any trouble or anything? If you're done, can you like raise your hand? Okay, good job, guys. Okay, so now we've basically completed making our main component with 3 variants for our weather card. And then let's see. I think we did all of this. Yeah, okay, so now if you like don't select anything and then you switch to your assets in your top left of your left panel, you can either like search the name of your component or hopefully it will pop up if you go to local assets, oh whoops, then in like demo space, which is the page that we're in right now, you should see your weather card pop up here. Hopefully not the example one, but like I named mine weather card 1, so I can see that my component is right here. And if I click on it, it'll pop up like the details, and then there's an option to insert instance. So if I click that, one instance of my component is now on my file, and I can like put it wherever I want. And also you'll notice for instances in your layers panel, instead of like the 4 square icon of components next to the layer name, it's now just one like diamond that's like just the stroke. So that's how you know it's an instance, not a variant of your component. And this one you can like put wherever you want. And while you have that selected, you can also switch out the instances for different variants. So while we have it selected in our top right of our design panel, you'll see property 1 and then a drop down to change it to the different variants. And yay, you've created a component. So yeah, you can like imagine this if you're designing like a weather app and you're making the screens, and then you want to basically just have like a bunch of different examples of different places with different weather conditions. You can paste a bunch of these in and have them all have the same style and layout, but just different like numbers or pictures. And then also with instances, you can just like duplicate them and it'll make more instances, but each one you can change on their own. So yeah, very cool. Yeah, I think we did everything for the component demo, but overall, like, can you hold up like a thumb and give me like a range of like how you feel about components? Like if it was really easy, like a thumbs up, or if it was like a little more challenging and you still don't like quite understand it, like you can like give a thumbs down. But where's like everyone at? Okay, okay. Okay, we're looking pretty good. But yeah, don't be discouraged if like you're still like not truly understanding it. It's like really is a hard concept to just like learn out of nowhere. But it does get easier with practice. Okay, so this is kind of like a bonus. I'll just go through it like kind of quickly because variables are a little more challenging. But I'll just like go over it so you can see how it's done. But yeah, we're gonna make a variable. And this is kind of like for if you're designing like a screen, for example, for an app, and you want like a light mode and a dark mode. So like obviously when you have light mode on, the background is like white, and then the text and everything will be black. But in dark mode, the background's black and everything else is white, so it stands out. So yeah, this is like one case where variables would be more useful to use instead of like styles and stuff like that, just to make it like quicker and more efficient in designing. But yeah, while you have like nothing selected, you'll see in your design panel, it says local variables. And then if you click that, it'll pop up like a list of variables. Actually, I already did this, but we'll just like make a new one. So yeah, if you click create variable at the bottom, you'll see the different 4 options, and we're going to be working with colors. So you're going to hit color, and then you can rename that color instead of color to like white for now. And then yeah, you can just keep it at like the default ultra white, or like make it a little less white if you want something that's not like so starkly white. But yeah, and then we're going to do that again, but for the color black. And then again, you can just like choose any color that you want for black. And yeah. Also, you can delete the first two, white and black, if that's like confusing you. If you just like highlight it and like right click or control click, you can like delete those variables. Anyway, so now we've like created these two variables for the color white and the color black that we've set them to. And then you'll see in this like panel of variables on the left-hand side, there's like a drop down, and these are like your different collections like or like sets of variables. So right now it's in this one called values that I've already made, but if it usually just says like collection one or whatever when you make one new, and you can rename that just by like hitting these three dots, and you can rename this collection or you can create a new one from there. But yeah, we'll just call it values. And then after that, we'll create the actual light mode, dark mode collections. Also you can follow along with this at your own pace with the file and the instructions, but yeah. Moving on, we will now create like a different collection that's called themes. And it's already kind of made for you, but you can like remake it if you want. So I'm just gonna like delete these and then redo it. Let me delete this. Okay, so now we have a new collection, no variables yet. And then we're going to add one that is also a color. But instead of naming it like black or white, we're gonna call this one background. And then this is already like created. Let me make this a little bigger. So you'll see like there's these two columns called light and dark. You can make your own. So usually those aren't there, but since I already created it for this, it says light dark, but you can just like add one and like name it light or whatever you want. Or you can delete that mode. But yeah, so we have background, and then for light mode, obviously our background is going to be like the white that we created. So instead of just having like the default FFFF white, we're gonna click on where it says light and background. And then in our like color picker, we're gonna go to libraries, and then we're gonna see the two variables that we just made, white 2 and it's supposed to be black 2. And then we're gonna pick white 2. So now when we have this like light mode on for whenever something has this variable of background, in light mode, the background is going to be white, or the color is going to be white. And real quickly, let me change the name of this. Okay. And then conversely, for dark mode, instead the background is going to be the black that we created. Yeah, so then we're gonna do this again, create another variable, but instead of background, this is going to be text this time, since we need colors to be set for both the backgrounds and the text for whatever we create. And then these are basically just gonna be swapped. So in light mode, our text is going to be black, and then in dark mode, our text is going to be white. So now we've already created our collection for our light and dark modes, and that's all done for like creating the variables. And then the way that you like can apply this to an actual design to incorporate these variables, if you have like text, let's just like, I'll just type my name. And then say I also have like a shape or something that's going with it. A little Pac-Man. Okay, so both of these items are gonna be like, obviously the foreground of like whatever I'm gonna make. So for the text, I'll just do them one at a time. So we're gonna change the fill of our text in okay, in our fill, we're gonna change the color to like the variable that we set from our libraries. And then same thing with the shape. And then, for example, if I put it in this frame, these will be here. And then in this frame, I'm gonna select like the whole frame that my thing is in. And then under appearance, let's see. 1 second. This is interesting. Well, usually it should pop up. Okay, sorry. If you look at these frames already pasted here, so like the light frame, under appearance, it has like the theme of light already set to it. Which you should be able to do with this, but I don't know why it's not working. Okay. Well, for the time being, maybe I followed the instructions wrong, but if you look at this example, I'll just show you like the end result. In our light mode, it has like the light theme set to it in the appearance panel. And then same with like our dark frame, it's set to dark here. And then this like group here of text and this shape, the appearance here is set to auto. And this is like basically Figma's fancy like brain calculating like what it thinks it should be based on like the frame it's in. So since our frame is set to light mode and then the group inside of that frame is set to auto, it knows that since the background of like the frame is white, it's gonna make everything in here black. But if I move it into the dark frame, it'll change everything to white since like the context has changed based on the variables we set. And this is like pretty confusing still for myself too, but if you want to do something like incorporating different modes or where it's going to change like a lot in the context, then you should utilize variables, but you can like play around with those. Sorry, my explanation was kind of fast, but it's like a pretty complex topic right now anyway, so you probably don't need to know it for this class and this week. But yeah, any questions on like the demos or anything or components, variables, variants? Yeah. Um, you mean for the variables? This one? Yeah, so this is a good question because usually if you have like something selected like this in our appearance panel on the right, it should pop up like the variable symbol that looks like a hexagon basically. But for some reason it's not doing that. And I'm not too sure why. Yeah, so sorry right now, but I don't have a good answer for you. But you can change like the fills to the variables that we set. Oh wait, perhaps maybe I figured it out. Let me see. Oh, okay. Sorry. Let me reframe that thought right there. Okay, so our shape and our text, we're gonna change the fills of both of those to the text color that we set within the themes collection, not the values one with like black too. We're gonna change it to text. Does that make sense? Okay, so for both of those, we're gonna do that. And then I just like group these together so you can move them together. But for this group of both of them, in the appearance panel, then the variable symbol will pop up. And when you push on that, it'll show you like the collections that you have of both of these. And then we're gonna set that to auto. Does that make sense? Do you want me to redo anything? Okay. And then in the frame that it's in, we're gonna change also in the appearance panel the theme to be light, since we want like the background to be white. And then when you do that, I'm gonna make another frame. It doesn't even have to be like the same look. In this one, I'm going to change the fill to background. Oh, I should do that for this one too. This is background. And then since the fill is background, in our appearance panel again, we'll do like apply variable mode. And then in the theme, when we push dark, it should go to the background that we set for dark mode. Did that part make sense? Or do you want me to redo that? Okay, sorry. But once you've done both of those things, you should be able to move your elements back and forth, and then it'll change depending on variable modes. And yeah. Any other questions for the demo parts? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So in order to like get the button to appear in your appearance panel, the elements that you have inside of it should like their fills should be selected so that it corresponds to like what type of element is that we set in our collection of variables. So while I have like this shape selected, I'm going into fill and then into like libraries. And then under themes, I'm selecting text because that's like the same style that is going to be changed with. So like also with the text that I created, the fill is also text. So that basically means these are acting in the same way. And then I also grouped these two things together, which I guess you don't even have to have them grouped. But for each one, then in the appearance panel, the variable button should pop up and then you can select auto. And that means it's going to change for whatever context it's in. Does that make sense? Okay. And then like, if you change one of these, it'll be there. Okay. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing for you, but if not, you can always look back on this. But we're going to continue on in the lecture slides. Oh, whoops. Okay. So some other useful tools in Figma. So smart selection is like a feature of Figma. Whenever you have like multiple things selected, it allows you to do some other cool things, like kind of switching places. So for example, if you select like multiple items, hopefully, or like sometimes depending if they're like lined up kind of evenly, they will be able to like, if you hit the little circle, the pink circle that's like on top of it, you can switch things out without having to like move the same spacing and stuff like that. Yeah. And then you can also like adjust spacing of things that are evenly distributed. So even though these like 3 emotion card things aren't like a group, if you just like select all 3 of them, you can like line them up and then these lines should appear in between them. And then if you hover over it, your cursor will be like an arrow and then you can just drag to easily like increase or decrease the spacing between them. You can also, oh yeah, this is kind of like the swapping of like items I talked about, but reordering objects. So if you have like 2 things that are already lined up next to each other, you can just like select both of them. And then the little circle should be like appear in the middle of them. It's like a little pink circle that is like very subtle. But if you can just like drag in between them and they'll just like swap exact places. So it kind of makes it like very even. And then you can also do similar things with resizing. So if you select like multiple objects that aren't grouped together again, you can like select different elements of each one and then kind of resize them all together if they are like, again, like evenly spaced already. Yeah. And then there's also like grids and guides that you can utilize in your designs. So yeah, these are two tools that help you like with aligning and spacing things as you create a design. So guides are lines that you can drag out wherever you want. It's kind of like a ruler. And then layout grids help you align objects. And then you can also like customize the grid to whatever kind of spacing that you want. So yeah, this is like guides. If you do like Shift R, that should pop up like the rulers on the top and the left of your screen. And then you can like hover over those rulers and then like drag out a line from the ruler to either like make a horizontal or vertical guide. And things can also like snap to that guide in your file. So if you're like lining a lot of text up, that's really helpful. Yeah. And then yeah, layout grids help you create like consistency across your design. So all of our like slides are utilizing the grids. And yeah, it's helpful for like layout things, especially with like text hierarchy. You can like specifically see like how much space one thing is taking up. And yeah, so in order to create a layout grid, you can select the frame that you want to apply it to and then do like either Control Option G or go into your design panel and like click the plus, like an add layout grid. And then you can also change like the features of that. So how many columns or rows do you want it to be, or a basic grid? Yeah, you can play around with the different properties, either just like graph paper looking grid or specific like 2 columns and 2 rows. But yeah, and then I'll talk about constraints a little bit. So this is kind of like the way elements behave in a frame when you're resizing it. So you'll see in this example, like everything's like adjusted or constrained to the top left, except this logo, which is like moving around while you resize it. And this is like something that can be really annoying if it's all like messed up in your file and you try to resize things, your design could get kind of messed up and all jumbled. But you kind of want to have like a consistent constraint setting. So yeah, obviously like this one doesn't work because something's out of place, but yeah, so in general, I think it's good practice to have everything constrained to like the top left, just so usually like we're resizing frames from the bottom right corner, so that way everything stays in the same place. But yeah, the way you can do this is in your design panel on the top right, whenever you have like an item selected inside a frame, you can choose like if it's constraint on the horizontal axis of like left or right or center, and then same with the vertical axis. But yeah, you'll kind of see how those behave if you have different settings and you start to resize things. But any questions about grids or guides or constraints? I found that I don't really use those things too much, but they're just like extra features. And then I'll kind of quickly talk about like what ideation is and why wireframing is important for kind of like brainstorming and making like your ideas come to life. So what is wireframing? When you're trying to like start a design and you have a lot of different ideas for you might want to do, different layouts or fonts, or just different flows of like user experience, wireframing is a great way to kind of like test out those ideas and see what they would look like. And this is also sometimes called prototyping by some people, which is not to be confused with the function of prototyping in like Figma, which is adding interactions and animations. But this is more like from an ideation standpoint and kind of like drawing out what it's going to look like. So yeah, wireframes are basically your design at different stages of your process, which are sometimes referred to as prototypes, but generally they kind of represent the same thing. So you kind of go through like different levels of fidelity or stages in your wireframes. And these kind of help you like rearrange your ideas and make sure like your overall flow is like kind of going in the right direction. And I said fidelity, and that basically means like level of completeness or like quality. So like a low fidelity design is like a basic sketch, and nothing's really, planned out yet, or there's no actual design in it. But high fidelity is like the final product of what it's going to look like. And then mid fidelity is kind of like plotting out more specifically where things are going to go and what content it's going to be. But yeah, it's like the low, medium, high stages of bringing it from like a sketch of an idea to the final product in Figma. So this is like an example of low, mid, and high fidelity. Yeah, I think that's pretty intuitive. Yeah, also another slide talking about mid and high fidelity, but yeah, just make sure like your high fidelity is like your final design overall. Any questions about that stuff? Okay. Yeah, now we'll just wrap up today's lecture. So this week, this is like, I feel like a fan favorite of this like course of this homework. It's like recreating Spotify. So your homework is kind of to recreate your Spotify like interface, and then you're also going to do like a low, mid, and high fidelity of it. So you can kind of plan out like the shapes and the text placement, and then kind of start to fill in the details of that as you go to high fidelity. So the end result is basically a direct copy of what Spotify looks like. And you can like edit, your playlist pictures and names and stuff like that. But then our lab 3 is going to be more practice with components. You'll be making like fun illustrative patterns using components, which is like another way that's not UI UX that components are really cool to practice with. But yeah, again, like reach out to your TA if you can't make it. It's very important that you guys go to your labs, because this is where you get to actually work on the tools and get feedback from your peers, and it's really fun. And today's secret word will be toothpaste. Toothpaste. Yeah, that's it. There's also, oh, sorry. I don't know if the readings are mandatory this week, but it will be on B courses if it is. But yeah, thank you guys for coming, and enjoy like homework and lab and stuff. But thank you. Thank you.